Welcome to my world. I'm Takhar, and I want you to come follow me on my journey as I document the ups and downs of running a business. I've been in sales and service for over 25 years. See, my cup's full now. It's my time to give back to you. The conversations I'm having with guys and gals in the industries of real estate, entrepreneurship, and leadership. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and all you have to do now is sit back, relax, and come into my world.
Hey, it's the JTP podcast with your host, Takhar. And today's episode is going to be a little trip down memory lane that was 2020. It's actually the third time that we're doing this year in review, but we're going to do it slightly different. For all my listeners and viewers that have joined us in the past, this one, as I mentioned, is going to be slightly different because I'm going to bring on my whole crew. And so if you're someone that wants more content on how to become a better salesperson, how to run a business with a team, how to invest into real estate, how to buy real estate, how to sell real estate, this channel's for you. Do me a favor, press the subscribe button. And if you're listening while you're driving, after you pull over, do me a favor and press the follow or the subscribe button on your platform. I know how tough this year was for a lot of people. And I really wanted to take the time to discuss some strategies that myself, my team, and a lot of clients took advantage of. And so I hope, even if there's just like one strategy, one tip, one tactic that you can use in your life, then this episode is going to be valuable for you. And so joining me is my co-host, Laura Stewart. How you doing today?
Jazz, what a year.
What a year.
When we were recording our end of year podcast last year, I don't think we saw 2020 going down the way it did, but here we are, end of 2020.
Well, for some of the viewers, you saw Laura drink down a bottle of champagne in our last year's year review.
I was sitting a lot closer to you too.
Yes, you were, because of now the social distancing that we're practicing. We're doing it a little different, but a big shout out to all of our podcast guests. And so before we bring on the whole team, we're going to be bringing on a lot of viewers. You're going to be bringing on a lot of guests today for today's episode. I also thought, Laura, it'd be kind of cool if we just kind of ran through all of our podcast guests of 2020. I get asked a lot, like, who was your favorite guest? What was your favorite topic? What was your favorite episode? So for myself, like the ones that stick out this year, definitely was Patrick Bet David. I had a blast.
That was a huge one.
That definitely was a huge one. Big shout out to Luke, who put that together for us. I think of Manjeet Minhas. She comes to my head. And if I do forget someone or Laura forgets someone, we apologize up front because I think we did almost 52 episodes this year. Majority.
Yeah, normally we have the list of everybody.
Yeah. But we thought we were going to, because we're going to go through a timeline of everything that happened and what we did from a business perspective, not only to survive 2020, but really thrive. And again, I hope everyone gets something out of it. Like they can use it in their business. But going back to you for a sec, who's some of your favorite guests?
You know, right off the top of my head, I think I got to say Jenny Bird. Jenny Bird is a local jewelry designer here in Toronto. And she came on and was telling us about how her small business was trying to keep afloat during COVID. I, of course, then dug deep into her jewelry line online, and now it's exclusively the jewelry I buy. And she's just been great. I mean, she had a lot of the same ideas and concepts of trying to keep her staff and how they could do more for the public and for people in Toronto who are in need. So I thought she was fantastic.
I know you also enjoyed the Manjeet Minhas one.
I did.
Mentioned that. What was that episode about? That kind of.
Well, it was just so great to have a fellow Canadian on and a woman, an entrepreneur. She's on Dragon's Den, so she's got some amazing experience talking to other investors. She taught us about how to pitch to somebody. So if you have a great idea and you meet them in the elevator, what's your 30-second elevator pitch? She was great. We also had another incredible woman on just a few weeks ago, Heather Monahan. I loved her.
Yeah, she was awesome.
We got a lot of great feedback.
Definitely a boss in heels. And there's a movement that she does. Make sure to check out all of our guests' Instagrams and socials. Some of them have their own podcasts. A lot of them have books. I just thought of Bob Proctor. He came into my head. How awesome was Bob?
We didn't even have to ask him questions. Like, he just came on and we said hello, and he went on for about an hour or so. He was incredible. Obviously, a lot in terms of mindset. His biggest regret was just not dreaming big enough. Sometimes we'll say, oh, next year I hope to have XYZ, or I hope my salary will be X. But he was saying, dream bigger than that. That's your problem. That's what's holding you back. So that really was eye-opening to me.
Yeah, like if you have never heard of Bob Proctor, just Google this guy. He's been in like personal development, self-help for almost like 45 years or something. I might be off. It might even be longer than that. But he is definitely one of the living legends when it comes to all things mindset. He's a big believer and a practitioner of the law of attraction, something that we practice on a daily basis here, something that we're going to be talking a lot about in this episode. Not only from the fact of like having the mindset, but what we actually did to attain a lot of the success and the results that we were able to get this year. Even just thinking about growing a team, I mean, you have to put that thought out there first. And we're going to talk about all of our new members.
It is weird because this time last year, we were thinking we need someone on our team, someone specific we had in mind to do certain tasks. And then Luke came into our lives. Yeah. And we're going to talk to Luke later. And we manifested that, I'm sure, because he was exactly everything that we wanted. I remember coming back from Montreal with Steven on the train, and we were like, this is what we need. And there he was, and he's been great.
And there's been so many others. You're going to get to hear from a lot of them. We're going to start off with bringing my business partner, Simos, on. And just before we talk to Simos, I thought it would probably be a good idea to go a little bit higher level to the air traffic controller of our company. This gentleman, Tyler, Ty Walburn, has been with us now for coming up to, I think, about 6 years.
Yeah, it's 6 years. Tyler and I started at the exact same time.
Did you guys start at the same time?
Yeah, January 2015.
And for the ones who have never heard of Tyler's story and how he joined us, I'll take a second just to remind people. But this guy was our waiter at Jack Astor's and right here at Shops at Don Mills. And I remember just going into Jack Astor's, ordering lunch, having a couple of drinks, and watching him and seeing how he interacted not only with our table, but with all the other tables. He was so hospitable. And it's just funny how life works, right? We threw it out at him like, hey, Tyler, like, what are you looking into doing? At that time, he must have been about 22, 23 years age. Is this kind of like where you see yourself for the next 10, 15 years? He's like, no, I actually wanted to get involved into real estate. And so how funny is that, right?
We'll talk about the law of attraction that we were just mentioning. Like, he must have manifested that himself, because here you were just sitting there. I mean, that could have been a regular lunch. You came, you left, and no one spoke to each other about it. But one of you guys brought it up, and now he's here.
We just put it out there, and I actually see Tyler on right now. Ty, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Good, my man. I thought, I was just telling the listeners the story about how you came into my world and came into the organization here at REC, like just being a waiter at Jack Astor's, and you probably, Laura mentioned it as well. You were just you probably were manifesting trying to get into real estate. Do you remember kind of what happened in that sense?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So before I even met you guys, I actually changed the picture of my phone at the time to a for sale sign. And I started taking my real estate courses. And it's all about positive affinity. You get what you put out there into the universe. And I served you guys at the restaurant, and I became your guys' assistant. And naturally, I don't know how much you've explained, but naturally, I kind of grew the ranks, and now I get to work with our insiders and clients every day, which is amazing.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good idea to bring you in at this time just to talk about how we handled the first couple of weeks and really first couple of months. And that's kind of what I want you to speak about. The first couple of months of the lockdown, just getting started with what I really think revolutionized our business, which was getting started in that virtual office. Like, Laura, I know how much you remember it. Like signing on every single morning, 9 a.m. We were on it till about 6 p.m. It was myself, yourself, Tyler,
and Luke.
We're really kind of the four. And then we'd go into the virtual media office and see our whole media squad that we'll talk about in a minute. But it was nice, right, Ty? Like we were able to even eat together, spend that 8-9 hours on that virtual office. What do you remember about that time?
It was definitely different for sure. Obviously, going from the office, seeing everyone every day, to working from home and working together virtually on the virtual office. It was different for sure. Myself, I make a lot of calls every day, so having the computer going to talk while I was talking on the phone was definitely a little different than what I'm used to. And I miss throwing the football around. And it's actually at the office right now. You guys have it. I hope you're throwing the football around here and there. But it was good though, because it still allowed us, I think, to get the culture and our working environment even while we were away from one another. So I definitely would recommend other businesses doing that for sure if they have to.
Well, look, I think it's very important what you just mentioned. Like, we knew what we were dealing with in terms of the fact that we couldn't be together. We did not let that stop us. We figured something out that was 50% as effective. The truth of the matter is, like, not that I ever micromanage when you guys are here. I definitely couldn't do anything when you guys are all at home. But I found it very valuable because for me, it was important not to watch the news at that time. And then to also know that, okay, the crew around me, this catch me if you can crew. And for everyone else, that's kind of our inside crew name that we have for each other. At least we, for those 8-9 hours, we're not allowing any of that negative news, that negative information, those negative vibrations to come into our head. We were trying to do our best to stay positive.
Well, that's really where it started. And we didn't know what to do, right? Like, we're in the sales organization and people are losing their jobs. People are dying, unfortunately, or people are sick. And so for the first 2 weeks, like, we would just kind of come onto the VO, chit chat about what was going on. And we weren't doing much. And then we came up with the idea to call all of our Greater Toronto area clients just to make sure they were doing okay. So not a sales call, nothing like that. We were just simply going to ask everybody, is there anything you need from us? Can we do anything? Do you need us to get groceries, prescriptions, books, anything? And then that kind of, after we had done that and everyone said, thank you, but we're good. Everyone was safe. We would come on the VO and say, okay, what's next? And then that's when we came up with the goal of like, okay, in the next 4 weeks, we need to try and do 7 deals. That was the goal. And I remember most of us were like, 7 deals? We can't do, no one's transacting. Like, what are we going to do? But that was the goal. And so that made us start to think of creative ways that we could figure it out.
And even before we go into the actual deals, I mean, Ty, what do you remember about making all those calls, man? Because the calls that Laura mentioned, I mean, you made majority of them, just reaching out to our people, seeing how could you service them? And this is a reminder for anyone who's watching or listening right now that's a business owner or a sales, that's a salesperson, is you're in the sales and service industry, in my opinion. And so when you can't sell, be of service to your customers, to your clients, to your staff. Tyler, what do you remember from some of those calls, man, making those calls to our clients?
Yeah. So one thing that you always preach and what you've taught me when I first started doing my calls, even obviously before the pandemic, is leading through value. You always have to bring value first before you do any type of ask or sale. So these calls weren't really too different in regards to what we were saying. Obviously, the terminology was different because we're more at that time with the pandemic was seeing if anyone needed any immediate assistance for everything. The calls itself, it made me feel really warm, just reaching out to people to let them know that we were there for them. We did help deliver groceries. I know we had Luke, I think, on the roads delivering groceries. So shout out Luke. He's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if we saw him or not yet, but he's the best. I love that guy.
He's on next. We're gonna bring on Luke.
He's on next. Well, you're in a treat for everyone listening and watching. You guys are in for a treat. Luke is awesome. The calls were nice, just connecting with people. And, when you're there for your clients and we call them our insiders, it's just different. It's different from what everyone does. And it puts you above, I think anyways, from what a lot of other companies do and how they operate. And ask any of our insiders, they know that we're there for them first before we even care about real estate. And it just makes what we do a lot more valuable, and in our hearts it makes me feel anyways a lot more like a human. Essentially.
I love what you said about the fact that it was warm and fuzzy, because I think that's what our insiders / our it's really the REC family. I think that's what they feel as well, right? It's one of the main reasons why they continue to do business with us. More importantly, it's a great indication that they actually introduce us to their family members, their colleagues, their neighbors.
A lot of people even volunteered their time to help with our cause, right? They said, well, what can we do for you guys? If you need us to get groceries, we'll go out and do it. And it became such a nice community feeling, especially when we were hearing such bad news everywhere, right?
Such a great point. Congratulations to you, to Cass.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything that you do to make not only my life easier, but all of our insiders' life easier. I mean, we went really hard on getting the message out about the real estate concierge division that you run, where you put our clients and our insiders in touch with plumbers, electricians, reviewing of lease agreements right across the country. And so you manage all that. And so thank you so much, buddy, for just being you.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always nice I'm always on the phone, so it's nice to actually be on the camera sometimes and say hi to everyone virtually, but it's nice.
I love it, my man. Thank you, buddy. We'll catch up soon. On that trip back from Montreal, as you mentioned, where we knew that we needed someone to help us with certain tasks that were taking up a lot of time, and we speak a lot about it through our content, that if you want to scale, what I have found, the easiest way to scale is with people. Now, you need to get the right people. You also, as a business owner, need to understand that you need to leave money on the table. Because to attract the right people, you got to pay them. You don't necessarily need to pay over and above what others are paying for those roles. In fact, I'm a believer that when you attract the right people, it doesn't even have to do with the money. People are not here. Steven's not here. You're not here. Luke is not here. Tyler's not here, in my opinion, because of the amount that we pay you. In fact, majority of you, if not all of you, came to me in 2020 at some point and said, hey, if we need to take a little less just to keep the lights on, we're willing to do that. You get that from your staff when they're really bought in. And I mean, you're a big proponent of why the culture is what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I think it starts by showing your staff that you're in the trenches with them. Like, we take the office without the windows. We give the sunshine and the views to everybody else. And I know, Jazz, for sure, you're here before everybody, usually the last man out. And so it starts from the top down, right? If you care about your business, they're going to care. If you care about your clients, they're going to care. And no one has taken this on more than our boy Luke.
Actually, I was just talking to Steven to see who we were going to bring in. Shall we bring in Luke first? He's been waiting. Let's bring our boy, Luke, Phenom, Leeson. How you doing, Phenom?
Doing well, guys. How are you guys?
Good, brother. I'm not sure if you heard what Laura and I were saying about you, all bad things. And we're just, all kidding aside though, brother, you had such a big role and it was so important to have you part of our squad, to have you part of the team this year, because you just like overperformed, man. I mean, and
no one troubleshoots better than Luke.
Yeah, Luke is like Steven's good. Steven's good
from a tech perspective.
Yeah,
but Luke, from any other thing that could ever go on, Luke is on it.
100%. It was so nice to know that you were just around, because I knew that, and to agree with Laura's sentiment there. Like, it didn't matter. We know Luke would have figured it. We know Luke will figure it out. And so talk to us a little bit about the year that was 2020 for you, man.
Yeah, I tell everybody the things that I'm learning at REC and the amount of opportunities that I get working with you guys. And then a lot of people, they stop and ask me, they say, wait, you get paid for this? I would pay to do this. And I tell people all the time, like, I tell Jazz and Laura, like, I don't know why you guys are paying me. I should be paying you guys for everything else that you're giving me in return. So I think 2020 has been great. I mean, being in a global pandemic as a 20-year-old entrepreneur, it's obviously difficult, but you guys made it so much easier. I was able to develop not only in my real estate career, but also my other business and my other business ventures. So that would not have happened without the mentorship from the both of you.
Well, buddy, I mean, you're just amazing for the kind words, but I want to go even a little bit deeper, because there's somebody who's listening right now that's 17 years old. There's also somebody who's listening right now that's 67 years old, and they might not understand what it has taken from your perspective to actually get into this room. So why don't you talk a little bit about like what you actually learned?
Right. So I think the most important thing that I've learned, and it really just shifted my entire really viewpoint on business, is that you actually have to take care of your clients, and that has to be your priority. Because if you genuinely don't have their intention, like their best intentions in mind, then then they're not going to trust you. They're not going to like you. They're not going to refer you to their friends and family. And then you're not going to be able to scale your business. So I think that was the number one thing that I learned, that you actually have to take care of your people. And most importantly, like your clients, and you have to build that relationship. Don't be a salesperson. Don't be a salesman, a saleswoman. You actually have to have their best interest in mind.
Well, I love that, because you'll come into the office and just talk about, hey, man, it's so cool that you don't have to be a sleazy salesperson and you can do a lot of business. For anybody who's watching or listening right now, what Luke and I generally have a standing meeting, especially during the first part of the lockdown. We had a standing meeting anywhere from 8 a.m. to 8:30 in that virtual office before the rest of the crew came in. And Luke, I mean, look, we're at the end of 2020. We ended up as a whole team doing $6.4 million in gross commissions as our 39 real estate agents, our 11 support staff. I'm going to be bringing Simos in and talking a little bit more about how we did that. But you were able to see it firsthand, especially during like March 15th, when we went into lockdown, right up until say end of November, where majority of that business was done in that time period. You were such an integral part in all the virtual coffees that were set up. Like, you helped set up, along with Tyler, over 200 virtual coffees for me. You got me on a little over 66 podcasts featured us on. We talk about that all the time, like going outbound. Don't wait for inbound business. The amount of articles, the amount of social media posts that you helped me do. Nightcap with Jazz, that was something that used to come on with come on with me on a regular basis. What did you learn from how much work it actually takes, Luke?
Right. I mean, back when I used to work my regular 9 to 5 jobs, I would be exhausted after an 8 hour day. But nowadays, whenever we're working, just like on a regular day like today, it's going to be another 12, 13 hour day, but it doesn't even feel like work anymore. But I realized that this is the amount of quote unquote work that you have to put in to actually be successful, right? Because like you said, we did 6.4 million in commissions during a lockdown, during a year where everyone has their hands in their pockets. But if we want to differentiate ourselves from the rest, we actually have to put in the hours. And more importantly, we have to do things that we've never done before to get to places we've never been. So, i.e., that's where the nightcap comes in, the brunch with REC. We've never done these weekly, bi-weekly Saturday webinars on a Saturday morning. But because of the unique situation that we're in with the lockdown, we're going to have to push ourselves out of our comfort zone and outside of the box to accomplish things we've never accomplished before, right? That's why we were able to earn the 6.4 million in commissions and do the amount of transactions that we were doing, because again, like during hard times, that's when you need to be hard as well.
Now, what do you see for yourself in 2021, like moving forward? What's some stuff that you're thinking about that you want to attract?
Right. I definitely want to be able to learn real estate more, and I definitely want to be able to close more transactions, right? 2020, it was really a year of a lot of learning. I barely knew the basics, but I feel like I know much more about investment in real estate. And now being in this industry myself, I definitely want to assist more investors in growing their real estate portfolio. So that's definitely my goal heading into 2021. But I'm always learning. I'm always looking for new ways to grow. And that's pretty much it. Just really looking to grow.
I love it, buddy.
I gotta say one thing about Luke here. This guy, I feel like this is a story of boys to men, because when he started with us 12 months ago, much more shy, didn't know the workings of the real world as much as he does now. He's changed so much. He's grown so much. Luke, you've learned leaps and bounds. We're so grateful to have you on the team, and what you did for me during the lockdown. I know you brought me presents, and you ran all around the city to do all wonderful things for our clients. And we're so grateful to have you. I see big things for your future. And I know that if anyone's listening who is your age, like Jazz was saying, consider interning for people who you admire, people you think can give you value, because I think Luke learned more in this year than he would have almost anywhere else. And
1,000%.
I think your future's looking bright.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier about wanting to just do 7 deals in that month of April, I think you said, right? Okay. I think how much did we actually end up doing?
I think we did 3 deals.
3 deals. Okay. So what do you remember of that time? Just not being able to hit the 7?
Well, that time was so interesting because you had to kind of walk on eggshells a little bit. So we weren't like, bye with us. Nothing's wrong. The world's fine. We were like, let's use this time to educate. Let's use this time to increase our exposure. And in that, if someone's ready and they feel there's an interesting opportunity, they'll grab onto it. And so it wasn't until that we got the first deal done that I was like, okay, we can do this. Like, not even the 7 deals. It doesn't matter that we didn't make that goal in that first month. It's that we knew people were still going to buy. The market was going to continue to chug along, maybe slower than it was, but people just needed to realize, like, okay, there's opportunity out here. I have cash. My job's safe. So let's see what's out there. We actually had to go and make opportunities happen, though.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, right? Because I think in anything you're in, if you're a real estate investor, you're in whatever business you're in, if you're sitting and waiting, I just don't think you're going to be able to get the results that you're hoping for. The best deals, the best businesses, the best teams, the best relationships are created. And you create you create them by first putting out what you actually want. What is it that you want? What are you looking for? I'm looking into retiring. Okay, great. Awesome. Why? Because if your why is not strong enough, you're going to come up to obstacles. You're going to have naysayers in your life. You're going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to do 7 deals. You only did 3, whatever it is, 4. If that why is not strong enough that it doesn't keep you up at night and spring you out of bed in the morning, I can tell you 99.9% of the time, if not 100% of the time, you're not going to hit your targets.
And I think a huge part was listening to people. So we would have conversations with our RAC insiders, and they would say, well, I'm a little bit nervous. What's going to happen in 3 years if I purchase pre-construction and there's no tenants? What if the schools don't open back up? What if immigration doesn't open back up? So if we listen to them, we'd say, okay, what their biggest obstacle is the tenant aspect. So maybe we can find deals that have lease guarantees. And so that is where we went hunting. So I think the gold is in the listening to people, understanding what is their obstacle and then trying to remove it.
Well, I love that, right? Because I remember clients. So from that only being able to do the 3 deals or whatever you mentioned, we then went back to the drawing board and we said, okay, what is it? We know that 3 people were willing to do something, but what happened with the other 4? And that's when we heard them say, well, if you had rental guarantees, we might be a little bit more interested. And then we tested that. Well, first we had to go create it. We went back to the developers and actually begged and pleaded, twisted their arm, did everything we could possibly do to get those rental guarantees. And then we went to the marketplace. And if I remember properly, I think it was the month of May that we did like 4 or 5 more deals because we were able to reverse engineer exactly what our consumer, our clients were looking for.
Yeah, and all that takes a lot of time. So we had patience. I think that's also a key component of the success of this year because we weren't saying, okay, it has to be 7 deals by the end of April, so let's just sell whatever. It was, they need to be good deals. We need to service our clients correctly. So it wasn't really the 7 deals. We just threw a number out there to give us something to work toward. And then in May, because of all the work we had done in April, establishing relationships with the developers, negotiating, that allowed us to do a couple more deals in May. And I think all of that combined with the new webinar show, Luke mentioned, Brunch with REC, your evening show, Nightcap with Jazz, all the featured on podcasts, we had a lot of exposure. And that is really why come June, we springboarded forward.
And I love what you said, like it was more of the accumulation, right? It wasn't like, okay, guys, if we can just come up with a webinar, we're going to hit pay dirt. Or if
we did things and nothing worked.
Nothing worked.
No one would show up or come on, right?
Exactly. And it wasn't just doing a nightcap. It was everything put together. It was confidence, though. You could start to feel like we internally were starting to get more confident because we had experience now.
We just needed that one deal. Momentum.
Like for me personally, and for anybody who's listening right now that's a salesperson or a business owner, I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years, okay, in sales and real estate now going on to year 16. There's very few times where I get down on myself. Like, not that I don't, and when I do, I try not to stay in that mode for a very long time because I think it can become a rabbit hole. But that first month and a half, wow, did I ever like second guess myself because I couldn't make anything happen and nothing was sticking until we did that first.
I gotta say, from our perspective though, you as the leader didn't let that out at all. Now I know the story where you actually concerned, but you didn't let us feel that way. You were just like, guys, we're gonna do the deals. It's fine. If we lost a deal, it's no problem. we're going to get up tomorrow. We're going to try again. We're going to throw something else at the wall, see what sticks. You had all the confidence on the outside, which I think made everyone on your team feel confident. Like, okay, if he's so confident, then we should be confident. And that all kind of mixed together. And so I appreciate that you didn't let us see that.
Yeah, well, I think that's important, right? And I think it's also important to mention that it wasn't fake what I was putting out there. There was times of concern, but I also didn't feel like there was any value in projecting that onto you guys. I knew that we would be fine. I just wasn't sure if it was going to be in 2020. So my thought was, and this is kind of my macro thought in business, which is I just need to be in the black every single year. Can I just have made $1 more than I spent?
Well, I remember also saying to the team, guys, as far as I know, your jobs are safe.
Yeah.
I know you had done some calculations at home. If we don't do any deals for a couple months, are we going to be okay? And you telling us that, I mean, maybe seemed unnecessary, but it probably wasn't, because a lot of us were like, ugh, are we going to lose our jobs next week? Everyone I know was losing their job. And you just putting that out there put us at ease. You made us feel like we were all part of it. We're all going to be part of the success or the failure together. And that got us up working every day for the same goal.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And we're going to talk about the second half of our year, because in that month of June is when things just turn. One of the conversations that I specifically remember within that first 2-3 days of lockdown, to your point, Laura, about thinking about what happened at making sure that we're not going to get rid of anyone. We're going to try our best not to let anyone go, was having a conversation with Simos and making sure that we actually started counting like what we're spending on strawberries at home and what costs we have from a business perspective, but also a personal perspective. Like, hey, hey, Simos, man, what does it cost for you at home? Okay, you're good. Okay, and this is what it costs for me at home. Okay, over and above that, we have our business costs. Because once we figured that out and we knew that we had, and we were willing to go to the bank, refinance our homes to keep everyone's job safe, that's where a lot of the confidence came from. And the timing couldn't be any better, because I think Simos is actually with us right now. But before we Laura and I are going to spend some time talking about the month of June and for the rest of the year. But we thought it was very important to save the conversation about the first couple of months pre-COVID, kind of when life was normal, and talk a little bit about all the stuff that we had planned. I mean, ending 2019, really the word, and what we were going to be focusing on going into 2020 was collaboration. You did a lot of that.
Yeah.
But dude, you were going to be flying the country for speaking engagements all over the place. We were going to be hiring even more people at the start of the year. Talk a little bit about kind of our headspace back in January and February.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything funnier than what actually happened. Like, we literally spent all of December and half of January planning, strategizing, and putting together a kick-ass plan where we literally had commitments that you're going to take the eastern half of Canada, I was going to take the western half of Canada, fulfill all our investor meetups, fulfill all our plans, and we just had a huge expansion to the team planned, and literally we went just right as we got through the awards season per se, I was with Bobby in Vancouver. We flew out to Vancouver to do the three cities, Surrey, Richmond, and in downtown Vancouver. And we literally finished that and came back, and the world was a different place. So 3 months of planning went down the tubes quickly, and we had to literally change everything. and pivot, jump, and adapt to the new reality.
We said the goal of 2020 was collaboration. Everything we were doing was supposed to be belly to belly, meeting up with developers, clients, investors. Remember, we were going to do pub nights once a month, every month. We were going to meet. We started planning that. Pub nights. That was going to be so
Remember
fun.
pub night? Yes.
God, I would kill for a pint of beer and a restaurant.
And some chicken wings.
Really, today's objective, I mean, as this is like a year in review, so to speak, about our business and everything that was kind of happening in our worlds, I really hope someone who's watching or listening understands what it takes to do the amount of business that we do, but also to build the culture that we have. And that's the focus of today's episode. And so I think it's very important to allow people to get into that conversation that you and I had. And I would love to hear it from your perspective about, like, hey, if we need to buy cheaper strawberries in the house, that's what we're going to have to do.
I'll never forget the conversation that we had, because like the world was literally shutting down. Every minute you would hear of a new closure in a new area of business affected, in a new crazy thing. Like, oh, 4,000 people died yesterday in Italy, and it's now spreading over here, and the NBA just canceled, and this was canceled, and shut down this, and send your staff home. And we're like, what in the world could possibly, like, what is happening? And we're talking about shelling up and kind of put our shields up. Like, I don't know if people can relate, or if they've seen like the Greek movie, like Spartans or 400, whatever it's called in English, how they all shell up and they all put their shields around to make sure that not a single arrow gets through. I mean, that's a defense. It's a strategy. It's defense, and it's effective against arrows in war. But in business, unfortunately, that's not how it comes down. There's no arrows that you can see where they're coming from, and you get faced with these crazy circumstances that you gotta really carefully position. We've been on the offense business-wise for literally 5 years straight. So for us to go on a massive defense, and we were actually contemplating it, it was significant. It was insane.
It was really
Which
weird,
is
right?
precisely, but by the end of the conversation, we decided wholeheartedly against it, because that's who we are. But like, we really, genuinely, deeply contemplated going on the defense.
And for anybody who's listening right now or watching, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Simos, I think what you mean by going on the defense, we were like really considering maybe laying people off, letting people go permanently. We threw really everything up against the wall. So if you're watching or listening right now, there is nothing wrong with putting all of it up on the whiteboard. And then seeing, okay, does this make sense? Does this make sense? Like, we've always wanted to get rid of Laura. So if there's a chance of getting rid of her, I think we will.
That's right.
Nice
Right?
try.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm still here.
No. That was the first person that was going to go. Laura, out.
100% out. Out she goes.
Out.
After, like, when Simos talks about going to the offense, and Laura, please, pipe in here at any time. I mean, at the end of February, we already hit our target for Q1. There was still another 30 days.
We had another month left.
We still had another month left.
We were like, this year's going to be amazing. We're crushing it.
Yeah, when you're that far ahead, it's easy to get really confident, right? Which is nice because it's momentum. But I wanted to make a quick point. And Laura, I think you will be able to give some really valuable insight after I explain kind of how that conversation went, because you've been part of so many whiteboards, and I think you can really potentially explain this better. But when me and Jess were having that conversation, that was without a whiteboard. This was literally a call. I remember I'm outside the side door of my house, and I'm like kicking against my shed. Like, I literally remember it. Yes. So I literally remember like walking in, smoking cigarettes. But anyways, neither here nor there. But what we're saying, like going top to bottom and what to contemplate offense versus defense, we literally put up what our monthly nut is. So for anyone trying to figure out where to start contemplating, like how do you come up with these decisions, we're like, okay, fuck, like the world closed down, but we are ahead as of right now, and we don't know where this is going. But what is it that we're committed to as it stands? Because if we don't have to travel, which means we're not going to expand the business that way, we also are not going to spend that money. So that comes off the board. So you literally lay out your expenses. So we laid out our staff, we laid out fixed expenses versus variable expenses that are tied to production. So we literally put up a visual in our minds, knowing that we are, like if we just continue on the way we are, but we don't have to travel all over, we're spending $30,000 a month, for example, because that's kind of like truly our operational cost, 30 to 35,000. Okay, great. So we got 35,000. What do we have in the kitty? What is our cash flow? What is our deliverables? What's our payables? We kind of laid out a scene. So all the stuff in the talk about defense was nothing more than dirty emotions prior to having an educated conversation.
Well, I'm smiling over here because I wasn't privy to that conversation, but I know you guys so well. I can imagine how I think it went down.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
You are so
and this is why
well read into the news. I'm sure you knew all the numbers, all the stats, every company and who they were laying off and why, and what the banks were doing and what the economies around the world were doing. And then there's Jazz, who's just like, I'm shutting it off. I'm not listening to it. I believe in what I believe in, and he was going full tilt on that way. And so your two strategies are funny in terms of how you go about a whiteboard. But at the end of the day, you guys, you always, I'm going to say, throw money at problems, because we've said this before. And this was another one of those things. Like, let's just keep putting money into it. Let's keep stimulating our business.
Yeah, I think really quickly, just to jump in, and then Simos, please come back. When and I'm talking from my perspective, so I'm definitely wanting to hear from your guys' end. When you know that you believe in yourself, like Jazz, I say to myself, okay, I'm willing to really, okay, do I need to stay up a couple of days in a row? Like, what is it going to take? Then I look to the left of me and I'm like, I got Simos with me. Like, come on. Like, there's a lot that we can accomplish together because we have the proven track record. Okay, together. And then I look around and I'm like, wow, I got a Laura, I got a Steven, I got a Tyler. We have a Bobby who you haven't heard from, but we're going to be bringing him in. Like,
well, guys, we have been through situations that were bad before together. Yes, that group that you just said.
Right. Right.
Like our own personal
and that's a big piece, guys. That's a huge piece. Because I'm going to give away the secret of how the conversation ended. Yeah. Because the secret is this, because it really ties into what you just said, believing in each other. So for anyone who wants to know how this shit ends, is you put the money on the board. It makes sense. So we look at each other. So we have 3 months of life here before we have to have this conversation again. Do you agree, Simos? Yes, I do. Do you agree, Jazz? Is what I said back. Yes, I do. So we're not having this conversation again for at least 90 days.
Yep.
Rain, shine, death, shine, moons, sun doesn't come out. COVID me this, COVID me that. Nonsense. So whatever the world looks like in 90 days, we resume the combo then. So we were able to structure enough faith in ourselves to buy 90 days.
You're bang on, right? Because it goes right with what started to happen in the month of June, right? That's when we started to really see some light at the end of the tunnel. So if you're in business right now and you're wondering, okay, how am I going to do it? Simos just laid it out for you. Find out how much everything's going to cost you. Can you keep yourself afloat? The name of the the name of the game in business, from my perspective, and I think we all agree, is look, it's not to put as much money in your pocket as possible. The name of the game is to stay in the game. You need to stay in the game to continue playing. How do you do that? Stay profitable. And for us, that meant we need to know what our expenses are. As long as we can meet that, we all can take something home, because you need to take something home to pay for all the, as Simos
The
called it, the
strawberries.
monthly nut at home. All the strawberries, exactly.
That's
and
right.
maybe less. And look, I'm not kidding, guys. This comment about strawberries was real.
What kind of strawberries do you buy?
Well, this is it right here. We don't need organic strawberries at home necessarily. I was willing. Everybody had to give that up. I spoke to my wife. I said, the kids will be fine. Simos, talk to your home. Talk to your wife. I think they'll be fine with regular strawberries for a bit if we need to. Do we all agree? Yes? Awesome. You got to start cutting expenses, especially the ones that you don't need. And so if you go back to our recordings during brunch, and we had thousands upon thousands of people in this year come join us on this brunch, a lot of the early conversations in brunch was like, hey guys, do you need Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Shmulu, Gulu? Like, do you need all of them? Because they all add up. Can you cut one? Can you keep one? Just have one? So, just to maybe keep some sanity? So you have to learn how to be able to cut those expenses to stay in the game.
And cutting expenses that aren't your staff, that aren't the people, for as long as you can.
Well, yes, I think like really that conversation that Simos and I had was probably 32.5 seconds long. Like, it was like, dude, before we cut staff, I'm gonna trade my car in. And Simos, you're doing the same thing.
And it was legit that. So let's finish that conversation, because hope to God, one of our staff actually sees that and understands what kind of decisions have to roll through people's heads.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, forget the 90 days. In that same conversation, we said exactly that. And the conversation was, we have taken hundreds, we have taken literally millions out of our business in the last 15 years. Is it okay if we have to put $250,000 each back into the business if we had to? Because people don't realize the cost of losing staff. You're not just wiping off 50 or 80,000 off the board. You're wiping a person off the board, and everything they do and everything they contribute into the offense, into the servicing, into the defense. You're literally dismantling what is your success by removing people.
The last thing we thought about at all times was getting rid of staff. It just was not what was in the plans. Knock on wood, we were very lucky not to only not get rid of anyone, but also expand. And so just while we had Simos on, I poured myself a drink. But before I did that, I poured Laura a drink. Cheers to you, Laura.
Well, thanks for keeping me. Apparently, I was on the chopping block.
You were on the chopping block.
So I really appreciate it. I'm going to enjoy this one.
So let's go into the month of June. By this time in June, we were probably about 8 to 10 episodes in, shows in, webinars in, which was a huge hit. Huge hit. To bring somebody some value who's watching or listening, think of creative ways all the time, constantly, in how you can bring value to your consumers, because they will reward you. You will be rewarded if you have patience. And I'll explain what I mean by that. And Laura will obviously talk about the numbers as well. After doing about 8 to 10 of these, having thousands of people just at that time, okay, collectively, in the start of June, we started to get messages from clients. Laura touched on it earlier, where we started to notice that 95% of our clients, our insiders, were working. Their job was safe, actually, and they started to ask for opportunities.
Yeah, they were banking money, essentially. They weren't allowed to spend it. There was no vacations. There was no restaurants. There was no extracurricular activities. People got money back if they had their kids in certain schools and stuff like that. And so people had money. And it was, what am I going to do with this? Guys, can you help me? Where should I put this money? And where can we help you put that money?
Well, God bless Canadians.
We're so conservative.
Canadians, we're so conservative. Not only that, a stat just came out recently, number 1 or number 2 in the world in terms of how much was saved. How much money was saved during the pandemic? Canada was number 1. It wasn't actually number 1 or number 2. It was the number 1 country. It's just us. By nature, we're conservative. We are made up of a lot of immigrants here in the country, and immigrants generally came from a country that was either in war or they lost their job. I almost tipped over my
Have
cup.
another one, Jazz.
Yeah. I didn't. I saved it for the listeners. And so at that time in June, why don't you touch on what started to happen, what we actually did, what happened in terms of deals?
Well, in June, the developers decided it was time to start selling their new product again. So developers were essentially saving some of their new developments, new projects for a time when they felt there was confidence, because they'd been working on these things for like 10 years. Like usually it takes, well, maybe 5 to 7 before they're actually allowed to sell a project. And so they were probably thinking, well, what's another 3-4 months? And let's wait until the confidence is up. And so at this point in June, developers were like, all right, I think people want to buy again. And so we were able to get our hands on some great product. Again, with good incentives.
Yes, with incentives.
Great incentives. Like, it's not like we had gone back to the way the market was before COVID started, but there was confidence. And I think that first launch, I mean, we had 50 to 60 reservation forms.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It wasn't for everyone, but people were excited. When you get 50 to 60 reservation forms, that told us right away, our client base, our REC insiders were thirsty, hungry for opportunities. Now,
our biggest problem was not having enough units
for that first launch. And that was, I think you mentioned 26 units, right?
Yeah, 26 units in the month of June were sold.
In the month of June. Something also happened in the month of June that I want to personally touch on, because I think it was important from my business's perspective, where I also wanted to start to come out with more information and content about my expertise, which is being in sales.
Well, that's one thing that happened that was interesting during lockdown, was you started being featured on more podcasts, and we never stopped doing a single podcast. You were doing your nightcaps, then you were doing your brunches. So you were getting even more comfortable in front of the camera, which is crazy to say because he was already very comfortable. But that kind of led itself to you needing your own platform to speak. And anyone who knows anything about developing a personal brand is that you need it to be authentic. And so company brands and personal brands can't always speak the same language. And we decided to give you your own platform. And so with the Steven over here, we created a nice little website for Jazz.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen that site, and I appreciate that, it's jazztakhar.ca, www.jazztakhar.ca. It's really everything in my world, which is real estate. It includes real estate, but also my passion and this mission that I'm on, which is to upgrade what people think about salespeople. What the market thinks about salespeople, because it really,
which, if you know anything, is not very highly.
It's not very high, right? I always say that firemen are the most trusted profession,
and then I think lawyers and salespeople are at the bottom.
Exactly, right. Some would say, oh, maybe lawyers are trusted. No, they're not really, generally speaking. But salespeople are even underneath that, and so I've been blessed. I owe everything in my life to the sales industry, not just the real estate industry, which I owe a lot to, but really to the sales industry. And I appreciate you mentioning, Laura, that it was my own kind of platform, and it gives me the ability now to speak what I'm very passionate about. And so if you haven't checked out the website, if you're not part of the newsletter that I send out a couple of times every month, it's jazztakhar.ca/newsletter. We started planting the seeds of building out this website/newsletter, and that all kind of started happening in the month of June. Now, piggybacking on the success of the 26 units that we did in June, as you mentioned, we had 50, 60 people that were interested.
Not everyone got a unit.
Not everyone got a unit. Come in the month of July, where which was probably the most interesting thing for me to see within our organization, because we backed up a 26 unit launch with a 25 unit launch. Haven't even done that ever in our history, where we've had 2 months back to back like that.
And it wasn't like months had gone by, so we had all this build up momentum within our community. It was 2 weeks later, we were out with a new project, and we went back to everyone who unfortunately didn't get a unit in the first round. We said we have another project, great incentives that we had negotiated for them as well. And everyone was on top of that. We got another 50, 60 reservation forms. Like, it was crazy. We were working so much, like all day, every day, weekends,
Yes,
evenings.
for sure.
We were eating every meal at the office.
Well, we started to come back. And I think that's a great point.
In around June.
We started to come back kind of in the mid-June, end of June. That first launch, Taylor, we started it from home, and then we completed it back at the office. 3-4 of us started to kind of creep back into the office.
Well, yeah, when you have that type of interest in a project, it's tough to do from home. That's like paper transactions, checks. A lot of things need to be coordinated, so it's difficult to do when you don't have printers and photocopiers.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you could do a lot from home, but you can't do everything from home. And so again, month of July, backed it up with a 25 unit launch. We brought on a new intern, the beautiful Delson, who started to help us in the back end. Was Elljae also brought in that month, guys? I think Elljae was maybe
She might have been a bit earlier.
She might have been a bit early. Elljae is part of our media squad. She's our second animator. Who Dani, who leads our animation department. If you guys haven't checked out the cartoons yet, do yourself a favor. Make sure to do so and leave me a comment. Leave us some feedback. We came up with what I still think is it's never been done before, is a 12-hour real estate marathon in the month of August.
Because why not?
Because why not? Now, we could have done it probably at about 75% execution. But having someone like who's joining us right now, Mr. Bobby Pume, took it to 98%. There's still 2% that we're going to get better. We're going to do it again and again and again. But a part of our business that needed work, needed attention. Needed attention. We could not get to it, but it was it's a valuable and very important part to it from the perspective of growth in our business. Couldn't have done it without Bob coming in from our Mississauga office. Bobby, talk to us a little bit about 2020, man. You've been here since January 1st, 2020. You were part of flying out with Simos to Vancouver, with part of all the plans that we had in terms of traveling in the western part of Canada and starting brunches, and this marathon that you took from, as I mentioned, like the execution of it could not have been done without you, to everything that you've done with our 39 realtors. Talk to us a little bit about the year, man.
Yeah, I mean, where to start, I suppose, right? I actually started my year sitting just outside of where you guys are right now, just listening, just taking things in. I think one of the things that I appreciate the most about what you guys do is you told me to just get on the bus and we'll find a seat as we go. So, I mean, I was just sort of happy to be on the bus at that point. And then it was actually March 1st. You and I, Jazz, sat down to talk about like what the seat on the bus was going to be.
Was
and
that
then
March 1st?
It was, yeah. It was right around March 1st, at least, right?
I have a feeling we had one of these.
Just a couple.
Just you know, from a nostalgic perspective, I'll pour myself one.
Yeah.
Continue.
It's amazing. We don't have any in this office. We do real work down here. So no, but like so we sat down, we do the thing. We started connecting more and more with Simos about like what we're going to work on and how we're going to work on it, and then stay home. Just stay home. We got a million things to figure out.
It's like someone
right?
not
Like,
having a full job description in place and just coming on board because shit looks great over here. Let's go. And then a week later, like, there's no business to be done. You need to stay home. So I can only imagine how you felt. I mean, they told me they were about to get rid of me, but I think it was you first, to be honest.
I mean, what is it? Seniority, right? Like, who has seniority in that regard? The woman that's been there for 6 years, or the guy who's been there for 3 weeks?
No, we had a sign up here: no girls allowed.
Yeah, right.
No, they did. That actually is true.
That actually happened. No, but like I actually remember reaching out to Laura and saying, like, is there anything that I can be doing? Is there anything that I can be helping with? Like, I'm trying to find my traction, my place, I suppose, with this organization, and it was just hilarious. It was kind of hold tight, right? We're gonna figure this out. We're all gonna figure it out together. I remember the strawberry talk months and months ago. It feels like years ago as well. But it was just, I don't know. I never once felt like anything was actually going to go wrong, to be honest with you. I felt like with leadership the way that we have it and the ability for us to be as nimble and place a system and execute on it as quickly as we can, that everything was just going to be okay. We'd figure it out as we went, right? So I don't know. I was just crazy happy. It also doesn't hurt, I suppose, Jazz, that part of that conversation at Jack Astor's on March 1st of this year was how long I could go without being paid, right? Was actually an interesting one because people kind of know me, I suppose, around the REC, right? But like Laura Kinsman, my fiance, right?
Yes, I remember hearing Bobby and Laura. You know, it's important, as Bobby was mentioning, to say that he just got on the bus, right? And we had no plans for him. You would ask me, Bobby, you'd say, Laura, where can I help? And I'm like, everywhere. Everywhere needs help. But when you're a small business and you're growing, it's not like, well, someone's leaving this job so you can replace them. We're creating jobs as we go. We're creating roles as we go. And you were patient and you just found kind of your way where it seemed the best fit. You had such a unique background and such unique experience that we knew it needed to be a big role, but we weren't sure where it was. So you dabbled in a few different things at the start. And then all of a sudden, the day it came to us, like, oh, this is the proper spot for Bobby. And that's reverse engineering. Jazz talks about that a lot here, is like, get to know the person, where they have strengths, where are their weaknesses, and then try and reverse engineer it and put them in a spot that makes sense. And if it doesn't work, change it.
You have to do that with your business too, right? Like, you're never going to know where your next hole is coming from until you find the next hole down the line, right? Like, I think I enjoyed sitting outside of the office so much because new things would just pop up that didn't make sense all of a sudden. And it's not like you hadn't seen it before, maybe, or maybe you hadn't. And then the next thing you know, somebody's capable of filling that hole. So I don't know, like, it's my favorite part about this organization. Flat out. It's like, Jazz comes up with an idea for a marathon, right? So what are you doing for 12 hours on Sunday or Saturday, August 15th? I'm like, well, nothing. I'm going to work the marathon. I'm going to hang out.
Technically, you didn't have to be involved in that, right? But you just consistently always put your hand up, took on more than you needed, I'm sure. But that just goes to show that if you put your hand up and you say, I'll take this on. I'll take that on. It didn't matter if you were any good at it. We just needed help. We just needed bodies. And it just so happened that you were great at it. And you ended up running that whole show. The rest of us got to go to the washroom that day. You didn't. Had to sit at the desk all day for 12 hours. And it turned out great.
Coming from my perspective, it's like, look, if myself, Simos, Bobby, Laura, and Steven can't figure it out, it's probably way over our friggin' head. And let's just do something else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, between all of us, if we can't figure it out, it probably can't be figured out. Especially like right now, right away, today. And so it's this sense of ease, man, the sense of calmness that comes with having the crew that we have. And I think if anybody who's watching or listening, look, this has taken 15 years to have this success, to have these results. You're not trying to make your and my advice to you, don't try to make your 2021 into this. Just move the needle slightly. Get your first person. You already have a person in a role? All right, great. Get another person. Try to maybe, like for us, 2021, and I was having a conversation earlier with Simos and Laura and Bobby, actually not earlier today, but a couple of days ago, in terms of like, what do we want 2021 to be like? Because we can put it on the board and we can make it happen. And it's not about trying to increase our business by 50%. I actually have a pet peeve of anybody who says, I want to double my business. Like I get for shooting for the moon and all that kind of stuff. But what if you just increase your business by 10%? You made 100 grand last year. How about we just make 110 grand next year? Because it's compounding, right? I mean, like Warren Buffett made majority of his billions of dollars from 65 and now he's 85, right? Like the what happens with compounding of the compounding effect is something that I hope a lot of people take very seriously. Like, don't try to double your results in a year. And some of the rewards are based on monetary, and that's what people want to kind of track. But I've made more money this year than I ever have because I know I brought more value to the marketplace than I ever have. Your income is in direct proportion of the value you bring, period. And if you take the time to listen to every single person that has been on this episode and that is going to come on this episode, I think you're going to get that they're living in happiness, and that's why they continuously get more than they have in the past. Bobby Pugh, I love you.
I love you too, my man. Thank you. And like I said, thanks for letting me on the bus. The number of hours actually hasn't changed, right? Like I could have been working 80 hours in a windowless room, but I'm happy here, right? Like, and that's what chiropractic was like for me, and I'm happy here. So I love it.
We work 80 hours in a windowless room.
It's true. No windows here.
Yeah.
There's no windows.
But people appreciate you guys. I was never appreciated until I came here. I'll put it that way.
There you go. Well, you're very appreciated by us, brother. Right. So now we're coming right around the corner for the end of the year. We're in September. 24 units so far in the month of September. Now you can start to see, for anybody who's watching or listening, that starting June, majority of the business that we did, Laura, was really in the months of from June to November, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting that, again, crickets at the start of the pandemic and most of the business that was done in a very short period of time.
Yeah, we went full tilt on blasting outward messaging, and we weren't rewarded until months later. And so I think patience is key, as I mentioned before, because if you had lost hope, or any of us had lost hope, we would have missed this entire window of opportunity. You also forgot to mention at the end of August, we started a text community, and we did that because we're watching other people successful people, not even in our industry, but in other ones. And we're watching what they're doing and we're seeing how they're speaking to people. And when we see people move from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok to the text community, then we're going to do it too. Why reinvent the wheel? If it's working for other people, it probably means that's where attention is. And so we did that with Steven's help.
Well, I think it's important to mention, right? A lot of what I've learned in sales and service has never been in the industry that I was in. So, for example, when I was selling cars for 3 years, I didn't really learn a lot from other car salespeople. I learned from insurance brokers. And when I was selling, like now that I've been in real estate, I learned so much from other marketers, other industries, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what product or service you're trying to sell. You need people's awareness. You need people to listen. If nobody watches this podcast or if nobody listens to this podcast, what good is it? I mean, other than we're having fun, and I mean, I would just do it for that, period. But you're hoping somebody is watching or listening. You're trying to get someone's eyes or ears. So if another girl or a guy is doing it well in another industry, look, there's nothing wrong with imitation at all. Do it, try it, see if you're comfortable with it. You yourself, Lord, like, I mean, I think in the month of September, you started to think about like, hey, I want to kind of have my own platform. I have a little bit more to say about what's happening in my world. What was kind of your thought process in wanting to start to speak to the world a little bit more?
Yeah, I think I saw what you did specifically with a nightcap. And I saw how successful that was and how much reach you got and live reach. And I mean, not just people saying coming in, coming out, but I mean comments and people communicating and building a community there. And I thought that, well, that's so interesting. I have a background in marketing communications. And with that, we learned a lot about the importance of personal branding. This was a number of years ago now where that wasn't really a thing, but they were teaching it in school. And then I saw with my own eyes someone building it themselves. And I like when other people are the guinea pigs. I'm not like the biggest risk taker in that respect. And I saw how well it was working for you. And so I tried out a couple things for myself. And again, it's not about being successful at everything and getting 100% nailing everything or having the most perfect photograph, the perfect Instagram post, the perfect blog. It's about finding a way that you can communicate with people that resonates with people, essentially. So I've blogged. I started doing my own live Instagram thing. And we started talking about what I would like my brand to stand for. Now, and I'm not selling anything, right? I'm just wanting to speak to the world in a way that's authentic to me, and hopefully it resonates with some people.
Well, I love the fact, because I still remember a lot of the meetings that I had with you along with Steven, and we were just talking about like why, right? Like we were really trying to figure that out for you, and something.
Yeah, my answer was really, why not? Sky's the limit. I think you never know where things will turn out. I didn't know me getting into real estate was going to wind up with me doing a podcast. I didn't know by me going back and doing my MBA was going to wind up in me being here. Like everything leads to something else. And I think if you try to wait until you have the best equipment to start a podcast, or the best camera, the best lighting, or the day where your hair looks great, and that's the only day you're going to do a video, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I've learned this the hard way in a lot of ways, because I used to say to you like, oh God, let's not film the podcast today. I didn't put any makeup on. And today, I mean, let's fast forward 2 years. It's a different day. I'm like, I didn't even share my shower today. Sure, like my hair.
Yeah, but there's somebody watching or listening right now. It's like, but Laura, like you're so beautiful and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, how do you think we get them over that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of self-awareness in that, because we hear from people a lot what our strengths are. People will tell me what they think my strength is. Just because I'm good at something, I almost don't even think that makes it a strength. If it takes energy from me and it consumes my being and I get anxiety about it, then is that really a strength? Like, I did well in school. I took science, but I was not good at it. But most people would say, oh, you're great at science. But it was hard. I think things that maybe come more naturally, some of the things you overlook that you're like, I didn't even realize I was good at that because it's so easy. Those usually are your real strengths. So there's a lot of self-awareness in that.
Going into the month of October, I started to realize myself that, okay, I need more help. I really need more help. And I'm actually watching two people specifically, actually, one being Steven Rochester, who's my creative director. He's been with me for 3 years, and I could start to see that he needs help. And for us to get to the next level in terms of producing more content, more valuable content from a quantity perspective and a quality perspective, if he doesn't get help, this is not going to work anymore.
Yeah, you saw that happen with me months prior. That's why we brought in Doubtson, Luke, Junaid, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. And Steven was in that same place, like just being pulled from way too many directions, not able to focus. And when you're constantly executing on something and you're focused on tasks, it doesn't even allow you the creativity to come up with new ideas. And we were expecting him to come up with new ideas, but we were also expecting him to execute on all the tasks we needed done. And so we knew we needed to work on that.
Yeah, and so the month of October, I started to put out there to our team that we're gonna go into what I call farming and hunting. Farming meaning that we're gonna start to set up our 2021 already, which I know sounds funny probably to a lot of people because we're in the month of October. But when you have people, and very talented people, you can run a sales organization and hunt, meaning get business now, and farm for future business. And so we were able to start to do that in October. Within farming, meaning laying down seeds, I knew we needed to just grow and get more people from a content perspective. And we brought 2 more people on, like brand new people. It was interesting because we had to go through the hiring process, not always easy. I'm used to people wanting to come here and kind of cherry picking the best. We now needed to speed up that process and go out like traditional on the monster.coms, on the indeed.coms. And it was
we had to go through multiple, like putting out ads to get people, and then no one would respond. And we're thinking, I thought people were out of jobs. Like, where is everybody?
Right. And like, this should be easy. It wasn't. But having also a familiar face to match, like having a familiar face and understanding, okay, this is what we're looking for, was very comforting as well. And I'm not talking about Steven. I'm talking about Clem, because he's been with us for the last couple of years, producing all of our podcasts. So we were able to say, okay, look, this is what Clem has done really well, and this is who we need now. This is the skill set that we need. And so having these 3 gentlemen run all of our content production, overwatched and kind of managed by Steven, was comforting, right? Having a Clem, bringing on Andre, bringing on Nikki. I think they're actually going to come join us right now. Are they with us right now, Steven? Clem, Andre, Nikki.
There they are.
Hello.
How you
The
guys
squad.
doing? We got a trifecta here. What's happening, Andre?
Can you hear me? What's up, Jazz?
We can hear everyone.
Okay, good.
It's
Well-
tough because these people started with us in the midst of the pandemic, not able to work necessarily at the office with us. So it's how do you build culture when people aren't even allowed to be around? And so kudos to you guys. We brought you in, and it's not like we're the most organized bunch in terms of here's your package. Now get started. This is your job. We were kind of like, let's whiteboard. Let's figure out what each of you are going to do. And then we kind of watched your own skill sets to the two newbies on the team. And as we were growing Jazz personal brand, we were trying to separate things. And it was the first time we were doing that. So there was a lot of unknowns. And I really appreciate your patience with us with that. How did it feel coming on board?
Well, it started off very, very promising. We were supposed to go all across North America, doing all kinds of cool stuff, shooting more New York, more
tours.
more tours. But then COVID hit, and that all disappeared. That all stopped. So I've been basically stuck at home since then, as I live with my extended family, and it's been different.
Why don't you talk a little bit about the process of joining the squad here, and as well as, what I was talking about before I brought you guys on was the importance of really finding what makes you happy, because I think then you're going to get out of life a lot more. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I started here in October, beginning of October, in the thick of it all in terms of the pandemic and everything like that. One of the biggest things I've sort of taken away from all this is that this is like a very fast-paced, fast-moving place to work, which is great. You don't get stuck thinking about anything too long, and it's a lot of like fresh stuff happening, which is cool. I guess to really go towards your point of like talking about like kind of getting into doing what you want to do with your life and your career and all that kind of stuff. And for me, this is what I wanted to do. Being a full-time creative, I think for me is where I'm happiest for sure. And so having this opportunity, it's a dream come true, really, in that sense, right? Having the ability to create every single day and just makes me happy. So, and on that side of things too, working for Jazz and working with Jazz and stuff, it's also teaching me a lot too from like a leadership perspective. And it's really cool too, like learning a ton about real estate. I didn't think real estate was a possibility in my lifetime, but actually after working here for almost 3 months, that's definitely shifted as well.
I love that you're learning the real estate stuff through osmosis, which for me is very important. And I know the team has heard me say this over and over again, that, man, am I doing a bad job if the crew around me is not even learning? I talk about real estate. Simos talks about real estate. Laura talks like ad nausea. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're not picking up on something, then we really suck. In all honesty, because like you guys are listening to it on a regular basis. So I love that you're actually picking up on stuff. Andre, for you, Dre, how's it been transitioning now to working here full time? What's that been like for you, man?
Yeah, it's been really cool. Just to piggyback off of what Laura was saying, and kind of like how we hold ourselves back, because getting a job like this is something that I've always wanted, but there's always been that voice in my head that's like, I don't think you can do it, or it's too much. And even in the hiring process, I'd be on the phone with Jazz and he'd be like, we're gonna make a documentary on you. Are you ready for that? You prepared for that? And I'm like, sure. And it was daunting at first, but I feel like you just gotta throw your hands in the air and just do it. Stop making excuses.
If I were to press you on some, like on one tip or strategy that someone that's watching or listening can make use of after almost 10 months of being locked down, what would that be?
I should have known you were going to ask me about tips and stuff, Jazz. I've been working at this job long enough.
Well, you've been recording it.
I don't have any tips.
Podcast for a long
What kind of tips do you have when you're sitting at home all day and your kid is bothering you? She could come in through the door at any moment. I don't know.
Well, one tip might be that might happen, and you got to be prepared for it. But
Yeah.
look, for anybody who's watching or listening, you have heard today from an organization that has thrived during this time. And within the next few days, at the time of this recording, you're probably going to have saw a lot of people, a social media posts, and heard of others who have thrived. But if you were able to read that post or listen to that post, I want to commend you, because just getting here in 2020 and making it through all this bullshit and everything that happened in 2020 is a W, is a win in itself. So congratulations for just making it this far. Fuck if you made a lot of money or made massive progress in your business and all that. If you survive, you should be proud of yourself.
I think, like Jazz said, just surviving the year. Like, it's not about thriving, it's about surviving sometimes. And you just got to get through the year. And Clem, I commend you on getting to where we are now. I feel like 2021 is your year. Okay, I'm calling it. 2021 is the year of Clem.
Clem, Nikki, Andre, thank you so much for everything that you guys did this year. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And as I just said a second ago, the fact that we made it this far is a testament to everyone. So let's get prepared for 2021. We're going to have an amazing year. And if it's a lot of what we went through 2020, let's just get past the year. And as long as we're in the black, we're going to move to the next stage. So congratulations, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Jazz. Bye, Laura.
Merry Christmas, Jazz. Thank you.
Hey, Clem, Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Natal, payaso.
There
That's
you
Spanish.
go. There you go.
Why's he
That
gotta
too.
go and do that?
Hey, why not?
I don't know what he's
Why
saying.
not? Okay, so, Lord, there was another addition to our team. You know what? I'm gonna call him he's not a kid, but to me, he was like my kid, my third kid.
I think he calls you dad.
Yes, I don't know. That's just his weirdness. He sent me a DM, and it went something like, I would love to work with you, and I don't want to get paid. I just want to learn. And he caught me in one of those moments where I just wanted to reach back. Sorry. I said, hey, let's get on a call. I got on a call with this guy, and he's like, Jazz, like, I won't let you down. I won't waste your time. I just want to learn, and I want to try to bring value. Smart kid, using words that I use. And then he's been part of now my life and our life for the last 2.5 months, I think. He's become, I've had 2 older brothers. Anybody who knows my story, you know it really well. I've had 2 older brothers my whole life that have taught me a lot and mentored me a lot. Part of it, what came out of that, is that I've actually wanted probably a younger brother in my life to give what I know. And insert this gentleman, this kid, Junaid, who just wows me almost every single day with his enthusiasm, with his work ethic, with his ability to understand when he's maybe stepped out of line, from the perspective of like not the right timing, but always asking questions. And he's becoming the closest thing to me of having a younger brother. I have truly fallen in love with this guy in the last 2.5 months. He's an amazing, amazing person. Junaid, I truly want you to talk about whatever went through your head to join us, because if there is an 18, 19, 22, 28-year-old listening that hasn't found what they're happy about, you might be able to help them, man.
I appreciate all the compliments and the feelings mutual. It's been great being around you, Laura,
Are you
Steven,
guys
and the
gonna
rest
cry?
No.
of the. I'm gonna
You
cry,
are gonna
Laura.
have a father-son moment.
Big brother
100%.
and little brother.
But
Oh, my bad.
but for real, that feeling's mutual. And yeah, my advice to anyone in a similar position to me would be to just go after or seek out positive energy. Because prior to working at REC and under Jazz, I was doing the traditional thing, which was being at university, and I was kind of pursuing a degree I wasn't 100% passionate about. And I had an inkling and a feeling that I was going to enjoy real estate, but I wasn't 100% sure. But rather than pondering that, I kind of focused on just seeking out positive people like you. And I sent you a DM that told you my interest in wanting to just work hard and learn from you. And the rest is history.
Yeah, Juju, with your help, I mean, we're coming out with something that's been a passion project for me, which is the new course in and around sales. I've always had this thought process. I've always had this idea, but with your help, we're making it real right now. Also, we started a new show. Like, we got the Ask Jazz live on YouTube every single Wednesday at noon Eastern. And it's just cool to have you part of it. It's a new spin. I usually have either Simos or Elto with me. Sometimes I do my own like lives and all that, but to have you, it's been a different spin on it. How's it been for you to watch the speed in the execution of certain ideas?
It was definitely a learning curve for me, and that was one of the things that I communicated a lot with Laura about, because I feel like Laura kind of came from the same educational background as me, which was very like the traditional post-secondary route, and that was one thing that I really had to step outside of my comfort zone, in the sense of not chasing perfection, but chasing progression, and just becoming a more collaborative person. I felt like since I started working at REC, I've been more open to getting people's ideas on the work that I've been doing, and not taking criticism as much to heart. So all those things have allowed me to not prioritize perfection, but more so just progression.
Yeah, it's funny, when you started with us, I remember it was just a trial. You said, I don't have to make a decision about school until I think it was the end of September. So let me give this 4 weeks or so and see if it's something that I like. And I remember talking to Jazz, and I was like, Jazz, don't convince this kid to quit school.
And I didn't.
No, you didn't. But I was like, you got to let him come to his own conclusions. Don't be the person that pushes somebody and then they come back to you in life and say, this guy told me to quit school and that I did, and it was a disaster. I think it's important to let people to come to their own conclusions, no matter what they are. Ultimately, Junaid had it in his gut what he was going to do, and we call you Juju, so I'm going to call you Juju now. I think what you did that was really important from an intern perspective is to just watch. For a while there, I remember you just sort of hovering around and listening to us, watching, asking questions, just saying, do you guys need something? What do you need? And then we were like, oh, this person's very helpful to us, so we'll keep him on just for that. But in you listening and being allowed to be a part of the conversations, what you found was there was a hole, a huge gap that needed to be filled. And no one was working on it. And you thought, you guys are leaving a lot of money on the table. How can I help? And now you've spearheaded an entire new revenue generator for us that will be coming out next year. And essentially what Juju has done is he's going to be writing his own check, right?
Yeah. I think that's very important that you mentioned that, because you can find places where you can write your own check, right? You don't have, like, there is no ceiling in certain organizations, in certain industries. And if that's what you're thirsty for and hungry for, you can find those. And so, Juju, my man, appreciate everything that you've done this far. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you, to your family. Keep grinding, keep doing what you're doing. And you'll always have a seat on this bus.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the love. Thank you.
All right, my man. November was interesting this year, Laura, because we started to, as we were able to still farm and hunt meaning still look for opportunities to bring to our clients. We ended up still helping 10 more clients just in this room, which brought us to kind of at the end of November to that total of about $6.4 million in commissions. On the same side, we were able to introduce new merch that's coming. Make sure you look for that. It was all, though, a lot of it from a design perspective, from a creative perspective. There was a gentleman who brought it all together, who's very near and dear to my heart as well, because him and I speak 12 times a day. And if we didn't like each other, it wouldn't work. We genuinely have a like for each other, right? I think there's a theme that anybody who's watching or listening can understand, that, I need to like you for you to be around. In fact, I like your I need to make sure your attitude is positive, because if it's not, it's very tough to stay around here.
Yeah, I'm kind of laughing while you're speaking, because I know who you're talking about. It's our boy Steven. We mentioned him previously a little bit. Steven, poor guy. God bless his soul. Because you and I sit in this room, whiteboarding, writing stuff all over the place. I got an idea. What about this? I saw this happening online, and so-and-so did this. We should do this. Or what would be our equivalent to that? And then you and I are like, this is a great idea. Let's go forward with it. That's where we want our resources and our energy. And then you and I realized, we can't do any of this stuff.
Well, you sorry to cut you off, Laura, because 10 minutes before we started this podcast, I literally just walked into that room and I was like, Steven, I'm going to need a bunch of videos and images because I'm going to run new ads. And Steven, you know what he said to me? He's like, okay, Jazz. Yeah. Because I know you're going to come up with another 42 of these things by next week.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my best to execute on them.
Obviously, new blood, new people is always great.
Yeah.
But there is something about people who've been on the bus a long time. You start to jive so well with each other. I see you walk into that media room and Steven's got the headphones on. Sometimes I know he can hear us.
Yeah.
And I'll say something, ignores us.
Yeah.
And I don't tap him on the shoulder. I'm just like, Steven needs his time and his space. Or he'll do this. What do you need, Jazzy?
Yeah.
What do you need?
Yeah.
And it's, you just give him 2 sentences and he's like, I got you.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I need. No one takes it on the chin more than Steven.
Well, Steven, I'm not sure. Can you hear us right now, my man?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
It's the only compliment we're going to give you, Steven. So
I'll take it. It doesn't come often, but I'll take it.
Hey, dude, spend way too much time together for us.
Hold on, I'm on camera now. Let me get cute.
I know.
Let me get cute. All right. What are we doing?
Anybody who's watching or listening, you've heard his name a lot in the last 3 years, but you probably haven't seen him much. So take this opportunity to take a look at none other than Mr. Stephen Rochester, creative director for REC Canada and Jazz Takhar. Stephen, talk to us about this year of 2020, my man.
I don't know what everybody was talking about. This year has been a blessing. I think for what I've taken from this year is, as much as things might seem down or, you don't really see the light, you can't envision what's going to happen next. It's about that faith. I'm not the most religious person in the world, but I do believe in, the way you think and your mindset. And, as Jazz has coined the phrase, garbage in, garbage out. So I try not to Gigo. So watch out for our apparel coming next year. I just kind of, I've taken that mindset and I've ran with it because, again, I try not to, as Laura was mentioning, I try not to hear as much as this going on around me. I literally block out the noise. So I make sure that, my mindset is always cleared of clutter and negativity. So, being with a group like this, like REC, Jazz, Laura, C-Most, Bobby, the whole gang, this has been a blessing to me personally. And, I can't say too much about this year other than, it's been a ride, a great ride, ups and downs, roller coasters, fucking madness. But here we are and we're crushing and we're going to continue crushing next year and the year after that. And I'm so grateful for you guys.
Well, look, buddy, we truly, truly love you because not only do you figure out a way to actually get stuff done, but you're amazing at it. Like, you actually know what the heck you're doing. You're very creative. Can you talk to somebody right now who's watching or listening that, because I know your backstory. I know the fact that, like, when you came here, the job you're doing right now is not what you got hired for.
Right.
And so talk to somebody about just like the importance of getting out there and putting out applications and making phone calls, sending out emails, all that.
I think what I've noticed about myself and what I would encourage most young people to do is maybe not focus on just one thing all the time, because again, I'm no expert in one thing, but I know a bit of everything in a bit of different fields, and I think that's what kind of sets me apart from my peers in a sense. Is I'm not perfect at anything at all, but I know a bunch of shit. Yeah. And I think that's helped me out, and my ability to learn other things as well definitely has set me apart. So what I would give to someone from my experience is learn it all, be excited, be enthusiastic, and then I think everything else will fall into place. Especially if if you're blessed to be amongst guys and gals, excuse me, like my homegirl Laura, happy belated, and Jazzy, you know what I mean? So I think, as long as you guys, you lead with good intentions and good things will happen. Long story short.
Yeah, it's funny, Stephen, because I know a lot of your expertise comes from self-teaching. Like, you go home,
right,
teach yourself a lot of things. We come to you with problems to solve. We can't solve those problems. And you go home and you teach yourself. You come back with, I found a solution, or I found a product that we need to buy that will make our lives easier. I also think what you do super, super well, which would help other people, is to watch. Stephen doesn't spend a lot of time talking.
Agreed.
He spends a lot of time watching and listening, which is why he was able to go from building a company website to building then the very next day a website for somebody else with different branding. And then we change
Right.
that branding like 2 days later, and he's got to redo the whole thing and come up with something fresh. And you do that time and time again. And I think the reason you're able to do it and why you've come with certain branding for me as well is because you're not coming at it from your perspective. You're listening to what the client wants, me being the client, Jazz being the
Right.
client, REC being the client, and providing what they're asking for. So that's,
Right.
I think, what makes you so different.
And I'll add to that also. I think another recommendation that I would give to another young person is, be okay living in or on the fly. And what I mean by that is be okay to pivot and change different things. It's okay to have one idea today and have another idea tomorrow and switch the whole damn thing, because who
Steve
cares at the
created
end of the day?
masterpieces for us. And they're like, we're not using that. Scrap that.
But it's okay. You don't have to use it because I'll use it in my portfolio. Not, you know what I mean? So whatever you learn along the way, whether you apply it to, where you are currently or the next phase in your life, it's all for you, right? So as much as you want to learn is as much as you can provide in the, as Jazz would say, the marketplace. So learn it all. Fuck it.
I love that. My man, Steven, thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Merry Christmas to you and you.
Merry Christmas, brother.
For the viewer and the listener, you probably won't hear from or see Steven for another year. And so
Next year, yeah.
Yeah, next year, 100%. I hope that you enjoy. It's the most he's spoken on camera in front of me or with me ever. So thank you for that. I know how
Right.
much out of your comfort zone that you put yourself, and you were natural. Merry Christmas. I love you, my
Merry Christmas. Love you, man.
All right. Take
Love you, Laura. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Lord, we've been going on for almost 3 hours. I got to go to the bathroom. And so I want to bring this to a close for our viewer and our listener. I hope, from my perspective, and I'm going to let you close it, okay, Alto? From whatever point of view that you want to, and wherever you want to take it. For me, I hope if you got this far, and
People are still
and you're
listening.
still listening or you're still watching, I hope you understand how much it takes to grow a business of this stature. And there is hundreds of millions of businesses that are doing a lot more than us in terms of revenues. And there's hundreds of millions of businesses that are doing a lot less than us. There's a couple of things that I've learned in 2020. And I've spoke about it in this podcast, which is shutting out the noise. But I've said that a lot as well. But there's some other thoughts that I've had. And one big perspective that I've been able to really catch on to is there's always a silver lining in anything and everything. And for me, the silver lining of this year has been not comparing myself to others. I really have gotten a lot of clarity with that. Hence why I mentioned that there's hundreds of millions of businesses that are doing a lot more than us, hundreds of billions of businesses not only doing less than us, but man, have shut down. And so at the end of the day, you really can only control what's in your control. So spend majority of your time in that. I wish you, your family, your friends, and everyone you come in contact with a great start to 2021. We have no idea what 2021 is going to bring us. Understand that you are in control of how it ends. We're at the end of 2020 right now at the time of this recording. Whatever happened was based on how you reacted to what happened. Elto, I want to let you close off the 2020 year in review.
So for me, I've learned a lot this year. I actually think 2020 was one of my favorite years of recent times. I learned a great deal about myself, about my life, what I want from my life. And I truly think what I gained from this was it's not so much about the big goal, although I think you should have it, because that is your why and why you're continuing to fight every single day when there's ups and downs. But I think it's the small, incremental things that you do every day that you almost think are insignificant. Getting up early, staying up a little later, getting that exercise in, sending that email on a Sunday when you don't want to, making that phone call. All those things, they're so small, but they add up. They add up over time. And in a year, like looking back, I attribute all of our success, to the small things.
It's been one of those years.
It's been 3 hours.
I love it.
I attribute the success to those little things. Just they're easy. Anyone can do them. That's the thing. Anyone can do them. It's like just brushing your teeth every day. They're so small that you don't even talk about them. And that's really what it comes down to, doing those things every day consistently, and then knowing that it'll pay off. And then in 12 months, not in 12 days, but in 12 months, you'll see how it all turned out. So whatever your goals are for next year, don't quit after March. Wait it out. Keep going and see how you'll feel in December when you look back on the year. That's my tip.
Elto, thank you for everything.
You bet,
Appreciate
Jazzy.
you. You have been through the ride of this year and the past 5 years. And as I thanked everyone else, I want to thank you. Your consistent and persistence of making sure that we get through the year, the month, the week, and the day is and it will never be forgotten. And so thank you. Thank you for your passion, and thank you for your unwavering support of everything that we do.
Well, thanks, Jazzy, and thanks for being a great leader. If we haven't heard it enough from everybody, say it one more time. Cheers to Jazzy and all your
Salud.
success this year.
I'll use this cup.
And look, your face is on a cup. I'm drinking out of Jazz mug.
Congratulations to the success and not the sex. Congratulations to the success of 2020. Thank you.
Cheers. I'm dying.
We went for 3 hours.
Oh my God.
You can't beat
In
that.
like my most serious to the sex. No. No. And I look at you, I'm like, do I go? No, because it's like, should I just pretend it never happened? But your face is like, no, I have to say it.
So if you can cut it out, cut it out.
Yeah.